Hi guys. Okay, so I've been saying for a long time that I would make a video showing how I use papers and fabrics on my magnet sets. So I just finished this one and it's a perfect opportunity to just get a video done. So what I like to do is cut a set. You don't have to, and I know it is wasting material, but I just like to cut a set because I use this top border piece for the sections that have inner pieces. I use it as a template for picking my fabrics or papers. So let's talk about that for a second. I use a ton of paper. You can find, I think that's probably the biggest question I get is, where do I find all of my papers? Well, back when scrapbooking was a really big thing, I bought packs and packs and packs of paper. So I have a ton that I've collected literally over 25 years. So I know it's harder to find these days. You know, scrapbooking isn't as big, but you can still find these papers and paper packs at the hobby stores, the craft stores. Or what I also like to use is fabric. Just this thinner cotton, I guess it is. The patterns are smaller, which works really well for these because obviously these are only 2 to 3 inches. So you'll find the inner patterns on scrapbook paper sometimes are so large that you really don't get a lot of that design on there. So I like to use fabrics lots of times too. Okay. And it's really easy to find. There's so many fabric stores. All right, so I will cut a set and then I'm going to use these top border pieces as my template and decide which papers or fabrics I want to use for that piece. And of course, it'll be the inner piece that'll be cut. So let's see. I'll probably use this one. I also really like to use, in almost all of my magnet sets, you'll see a piece that has like some kind of a script on it. I love script papers or fabrics. This I think I got at Michael's. That's just my preference. All right, so this piece fits. I actually forgot scissors. Give me a second. Oh, here they are. Okay, sorry about that. So, you're just going to cut a small piece that's going to fit the inner section. These are terrible scissors. It's okay. All right, so I know that's going to fit, which will be this piece. All right. Let's see with the bird. You have a choice if it depends on the magnet, but you have a choice with something like this. If you just want one pattern for the whole entire piece, you can do that. And you would just pattern this backer. And then you would paint this, and this would go on top. I actually will put the score eye section on here just in case you decide to do that. Or if you want to pattern all the inner pieces, which is usually what I like to do, I want to pattern them all separately in different things, I think. So I will maybe pick a piece that I like for the body, and then I'm going to probably do different patterns. I just like the way it looks. To have different coordinating patterns. This is really just your preference, what you like it to look like, what patterns you want. I like these smaller flowers. So you're going to go through this process, picking whatever papers and fabrics that you like. Let's just move on to attaching them. All right. So I use Mod Podge gloss, and the reason I use the gloss is because I'll show you, but I also do a top coat on top. And when your piece cuts, especially when you're cutting on the laser on MDF, you get a lot of residue on your edges. The gloss will let you just wipe that away. So I'm just going to apply, you know, a fair amount. Press down my fabric, and then again, I'm going to go on top of it with a thin layer and just let that dry. Let's cut this. And I would do this for all of the inner pieces that I'm cutting. Okay. So your board will have a lot of, you know, little random pieces. But when you go to your laser dashboard, your Glowforge dashboard, you'll be putting all of those inner pieces on the patterns that you chose for it. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause here and go and finish my board, and then I will come back. Okay, so a couple things I forgot to mention. On this file, obviously, like these leaves do not have an inner piece, so you're just gonna pattern these the same way. You know, the top, the bottom, you can do them the same, whatever. And I forgot to mention that when I lay down my paper, especially if you're using a thinner paper, you don't want air bubbles or really any excess Mod Podge underneath. So when I lay it down, I usually use like a credit card for this, an old credit card, but I didn't bring one to have handy. So I'm just gonna use this little, I'm gonna use just a little piece of MDF I have around. You just wanna like smooth it out. It works best with a credit card or even with your fingers. You just wanna make sure you don't have any air bubbles, any excess Mod Podge, and that your little swatch is perfectly flat to your board. So I added a couple of extra pieces that I'm not sure if I'm going to use. I just like to have some options. I think I'm just going to do one more piece, and then we will be ready to cut. Again, you do not need a really thick layer, just a nice thin layer so that your paper or your fabric adheres. And then a nice little thin layer on the top, which sometimes will change your paper color. I should note that too. So you want to make sure that you still like the color. Like this went a little bit darker. It might be hard to see on camera, but it went a little bit darker and I actually like it. But sometimes if I'm using like a light brown or something I want very specifically that color, it will change the color and darken it a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna let these dry, probably just about 5-10 minutes. I don't wait a really long time. Sometimes it's still damp when I put it in my laser. But I'm gonna take this board and put it in my laser, and then I'm going to go and show you how we select the inner pieces and put it on our patterns. Okay, so I've got my file open and I am going to, and my pattern board is in my Glowforge. I'm going to get rid of all of the pieces that I'm not using. Right now, I'm cutting only the inner pieces on the patterns. So the leaves will stay, but this one will go. If you set your pieces to the side of your cutting area, it's not going to cut. So that's like a little placeholder. All right. So I'm just going to move my pieces. Okay, what did I choose here? It also helps if you enlarge your screen quite a bit. You can really see exactly what pattern is going on your piece. Sometimes if I have extra, I'm also going to just copy and paste these pieces so that I can have some different options and see what they'll look like. I know I'm going to have some extra room, so I'll cut a couple of different things so that I have options when I'm assembling. All right, actually I think I wanted this branch also cut from this script. My bird pieces. I think I wanted to cut an extra tail feather from this piece. And I'm just, again, going to enlarge and go around and look and make sure that that's too much. That all of the patterns are going to look the way I want them to. Let's try. This is just kind of playing around. I am to add some extra pieces so that I have some options, but you're just going to place your pieces on the exact patterns that you chose, making sure they fit, making sure you like the pattern, the way it looks, nothing's cut off. I do this especially with polka dots. I like them to be lined up a certain way. So let's try a body. So I will just enlarge it and make sure that it's laid out nicely. Okay, that looks great. I'm happy with everything. And then you're just going to go ahead and start, and you're going to cut like normal. You don't have to do any different settings than you normally cut at. This does have a score for the eye on the bird face, and it's okay. It's just going to score right on top of your fabric or your paper. And that's it. You're just going to go ahead and hit print, and then we'll come back when all of our pieces are cut. Okay, so now all of my inner pieces have cut, and I'm just going to take a wipe, and because we put that gloss layer on top, it's just going to let you wipe away any residue or char that you get. just kind of clean up your piece a little. Okay. And then we're just going to start assembling. So your top border piece, sometimes I spray paint these gold, sometimes I just leave them natural. For now, just leave it. So you're just going to glue your top border piece to the bottom backer, and then it's just placing in the pieces that you've cut. These pattern pieces obviously are replacing the solid ones that you cut. Let's see. This is really just deciding what you like. I might recut his face. The face has a very subtle score line there I can do for the eye. I don't like that his face is different, so I'll be recutting that in a different pattern. But that's really all there is to it. You are gluing in all your inner pieces. For me, I like to go around my edges with chalk or oil pastels and just do some shading. That's just what I like to do. The leaf pieces, there are no inners, so you're just placing one layer on top of the other. Let's try my branch. Oh, where's my backer? So that's really all there is to it. Just assembling your pieces, adding in your patterns, gluing it all together, and then I don't think that fits there. And then placing your magnet on the back. Let me see if I have mine here. I actually don't have any close by. They come in this little set. In the file notes, you'll see the link to them, or at least the seller's name on Amazon. I use these small metal magnets that are really strong. So that's all there is to making these. Obviously, if you want to paint them, you don't have to do any of this. Let me just give a short little painting tutorial on how I do these really quickly. So when I cut them, if I'm going to be painting, my work area is getting super messy here. Okay. I will keep the pieces in the board that I cut it from. So let's say I didn't plan on doing a painting tutorial, so I'm not very organized, but I just wanted to run over it very quickly. Okay. So let's say I want to paint the bird. I'm going to paint it while it's still intact in the board. Can you see that? Okay, let me just grab some paint real quick and show you. All right, give me a sec here. Okay. So I use chalk paint as my base, white, cream, whatever I want, and then just blend in my colors. Chalk paint just lets you, it has a really good coverage, good pigment, and then it lets you sand your piece without losing your paint. This is a new bottle. I didn't mix that very well. It's okay. Okay. So I'm just going to paint right over my piece. I'm not worried about the paint getting on that border because I would spray paint it. I usually use like a metallic gold, which really isn't metallic, and it'll cover any of that little bit of paint I got on there. I would probably change all these colors so that it's got some differences, but I just want to quickly show you. This is the easiest way to paint, I find, rather than doing each little piece individually. And then again, I would use chalks or oil pastels on my edges just to give it a little more interest, a little more depth. Let's see, what do I have? I really should have blended this paint better. So that's all there is to painting, but I'm not going too much into depth here. You can paint however you want, but for me, I do like to give a piece a little more interest and switch up the colors. I would do the tail a different color or whatever. And once this paint dries, I'll use a really fine sanding block. It's the yellow one, it's a fine grit, so that it won't scratch up my paint. And I'll just buff over it. And especially if I'm going to paint my border piece, once this is all dry, I'll take my border piece and give it a light sanding. So if any of the paint is more excessive in one spot, it will show through the spray paint. It'll be lumpy. So I'll just lightly sand this and then spray paint it. And that's all there is to it. It's really much quicker, I think, than most people think, but I don't spend a ton of time on these. And when we make them to sell, we do them in batches. So we'll be doing like, 20 birds at once, and it's much quicker. So that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.